months later, rather suddenly from heart attack. But I got a lot of pictures and a lot of great stories. He told us, his recollection of his dad was very dim because Grover died in 1908 when he was 5. But he told us stories that his mother had passed on. And his mother lived until 1947. If you're wondering how could she have outlived him, he died at, what, 71 or thereabouts, outlived him by 40 years. Well, when he was married with the president, it was while he was in the White House during the middle part of the first term, and he was 49 and she was 21. So you can see why she could go on for another 40 years after he died. I've given some version of this talk over the years to a lot of audiences, and one time, at the time of the Monica Lewinsky scandal, I gave it to a group of charter school 6th graders in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And I thought, well, how am I going to take all this Grover Cleveland stuff and relate it to the 6th graders? So I had to, pardon the phrase, kind of dumb it down so 6th graders wouldn't get lost. And I thought, oh, they'll love the story of the wedding. So I told them about, the president was the first one in all the presidents up to that time to be married in the White House, and he was 49 and she was 21 at the wedding. And one of the students later wanted to know if she had been an intern. I remember thinking, that's funny, but it's a sad commentary. A sad commentary on America. Well, why do I like Grover Cleveland? Or maybe even before I tell you that, I should say something about what do you suppose most Americans today could tell you if you randomly just walk down Main Street, America, anywhere, and ask people, what do you know about Grover Cleveland? Next to nothing, which is a sad commentary as well. But you might hear little tidbits. You might hear somebody say, wasn't he the guy who served 2 terms that weren't consecutive? And that's true. The only president to have 2 terms that were not back-to-back. As I mentioned, elected in 84 and then again in 92. Ran 3 times, won the popular vote all 3 times, but the electoral vote only the first and third times. Some people know that. Others might say, well, wasn't he a really big president? And he was. He, to this day, ranks as the 2nd heaviest American president at about 270 pounds. I don't recall his height, but he was not a tall president, so there was a lot of Cleveland. But second only in weight to whom? Right, William Howard Taft, who weighed in at about 350 and had to be pried out of the White House bathtub. And they built a new bathtub for him. A few years ago, there was a traveling exhibit, as far as I know, it's still going around the country, of presidential memorabilia. And they had 2 or 3 items for every president. And it came to Grand Rapids, Michigan, a couple hours from me at that time. And what they had for Taft were, at least one of the items was the bathtub. They had to build for him because he was too big for the one the White House had. Well, I'm kind of going off on tangents here, but some other things that Americans might tell you. They might say, didn't he father a child out of wedlock, and wasn't that an issue? We'll come back to that in a few moments. There is a kernel of truth to that. He was also, you'd have to have a bit of a history background to know this, but some people might say he was the first Democrat in the White House in a long time. He was the first one since James Buchanan, who was the president immediately prior to Abraham Lincoln. So you have this long string of Republican presidents that began in 1860. Not until 1884 would you have a Democrat take the office. Even though there was the election of 1876, the Democrat, Samuel Tilden, had more votes than the Republican, but the Electoral College, or the House of Representatives, threw it to Rutherford B. Hayes. Well, but why do I rank him among our best presidents? I'll give you several reasons, and then we'll walk through some of the history of this man. First of all, I think he may have been the most honest of all of our presidents. Certainly one of the 2 or 3 most honest. In fact, honesty was Cleveland's hallmark from start to finish. It is the virtue in fact, that even hostile historians who don't like his politics will give him credit for. He was as incorruptible and uncorrupted when he left office as he was when he went there. He saw the world through a prism of honesty and did what he thought was the honest thing to do. And, in fact, I don't know of any exception. Even biographers who don't care for his politics acknowledge this man was scrupulous in his dedication to principles of basic honesty, truthfulness, and so forth. When the New York, wasn't the Times, another New York City paper endorsed him for president in 1884, in a famous editorial, it said, there are 4 reasons to support Grover Cleveland for president. 1, he's an honest man. 2, he's an honest man. 3, he's an honest man. 4, he's an honest man. And that was their way of underscoring the fact that America needed an honest man in the White House at this point. We'd had a lot of corruption in high places. You get a lot of that with one-party rule, and you get it with two-party rule too, quite a lot. But there've been an exceptional amount of it, and it really angered increasing numbers of Americans, and that's why they went for Grover Cleveland in 1884, because of his record as an honest man. The second reason why I like him is that he was a man of principle. I think this is a great virtue in any person, not just a politician. If you can find one who really has some core values, elevates them, adheres to them, practices what he preaches, knows where he stands, knows where he's going. As opposed to the wet finger in the wind, I believe in this today, something else tomorrow, whatever the mob wants me to say or do. That's the unprincipled approach. Cleveland was not that type. He was not like that character played by Groucho Marx, who, by the way, I love Groucho Marx, so I'm not criticizing Groucho. I'm a Groucho Marxist. But he played a fictional character, or a leader of a country. I think it was in Duxon. And there's a point where he says to some people, those are my principles. If you don't like them, I have others. You've heard that. You'd never hear Grover Cleveland say anything like that. He would say, here are my principles. You decide if you like them. If you don't, vote for the other guy. That would be Grover Cleveland's approach. He didn't waver, didn't blow in the wind at all. And I think that's, frankly, very refreshing. He revered the Constitution. He really did believe when he took that oath that his job as president was to uphold the document that he swore to defend. His job was not to twist it, not to bend it until it said what he wanted it to say. He really felt the job of the president was to uphold the Constitution and otherwise leave us alone. He really felt that way very strongly. I like him also because he never lusted for political office. He never felt, I've got to do whatever it takes to get in there. He never felt he had to have the job, whatever it was, in political life. He always felt that I'm going to tell people where I stand, what I believe, and if they vote for the other guy, I got something else to do. He was a successful lawyer. He didn't have to have the job. And so he never felt the need to cut corners or prevaricate or distort or play to the mob in order to win an office. That, too, I think is refreshing and maybe a little rare and maybe becoming ever rarer, it seems, in recent years. Those are the reasons I like him. He really stands out. Now let me put some flesh in the bones and tell you something of his rise to the presidency. He was born in 1837. For some reason that rings an unfamiliar bell. I should know this. I've given it a million times. I may be off by a couple of years. Late 1830s. And the son of a Presbyterian minister. Anybody know what state he was born in?
Ohio.
Oh, because of Cleveland, Ohio? No. There is a connection, but not, no, it wasn't Ohio. New Jersey.